I realize the words have yet to be invented that are large enough, colorful enough, or true enough to express the heart and soul of this woman that I love.
To hear that you loved so much is amazing. Tennis has allowed me to get in this incredible journey. And the best part about this journey has been it led me to you.
24 years of marriage, 2 kids, and a love story that seems almost too perfect to be real. But what most people don't know is that Andre Agassi and Steffi Graf's fairy tale nearly never happened. Behind the picture-perfect relationship lies a story of secret obsession, messy divorces, and a romance that destroyed a 7-year relationship in the process. This isn't the wholesome tennis power couple story you think you know. The truth is far more complicated, and it all started with a crush that Andre kept hidden for almost a decade while married to someone else entirely. It was the early 90s, and Andre Agassi was already one of the biggest names in tennis. Flashy, rebellious, known for his long hair and denim shorts on the court. But behind all that confidence was something nobody suspected, an obsession with a player he'd never even met. He'd seen Steffi Graf on French television winning yet another championship, and something clicked. This wasn't just admiration for a fellow athlete. Andre was captivated, borderline obsessed, and he couldn't shake it. For years, he watched her dominate women's tennis from afar, knowing she was completely out of reach. Different circuits, different worlds. Then came 1992, and fate handed him an opportunity he'd been dreaming about. Both of them won their singles titles at Wimbledon that year, which meant they'd both be at the Champions Ball. Andre's excitement was almost embarrassing. He went out and bought an expensive tuxedo specifically for this event, imagining himself finally getting that dance with Steffi. He had it all planned out in his head, but the universe had other plans. The dance got canceled. No ball, no tuxedo moment, no magical connection. They met briefly, exchanged pleasantries like any 2 champions would, and that was it. Steffi barely registered the encounter, while Andre walked away even more infatuated than before. The rejection, or rather, the lack of opportunity, only made the obsession worse. Here's where it gets complicated. Neither of them was available. Steffi had been dating race car driver Michael Bartels since earlier that year, and their relationship was getting serious. Andre, meanwhile, would go on to marry actress Brooke Shields in 1997, one of the most high-profile celebrity weddings of the decade. On paper, they'd both moved on with their lives, but Andre kept a photo of Steffi on his refrigerator throughout his marriage, a detail that would later become public knowledge. His wife had no idea that her husband's real dream woman was halfway across the world, still completely unaware of his existence beyond that awkward Wimbledon encounter. What happened next would change everything for both of them. Andre's marriage to Brooke Shields looked perfect from the outside. 2 megastars, constant magazine covers, the kind of couple that dominated tabloid headlines. But behind closed doors, everything was crumbling. Andre was spiraling in ways the public couldn't see, battling demons that would later come to light in his autobiography. He admitted to using crystal meth during this period, hiding his addiction while his career and personal life fell apart simultaneously. The jealousy was eating him alive. There was an episode of Friends where Brooke's character kissed another actor, and Andre couldn't handle it. It was fiction, scripted television, but in his mind it felt like betrayal. He'd watch the show and lose it, unable to separate her acting from reality. The fights became constant, the trust was gone, and both of them knew they were living a lie. Brooke wanted a partner who could be present, stable, someone who shared her vision of the future. Andre was barely holding himself together. But here's the part that makes it even messier. Through all of this chaos, through the addiction and the fights and the public appearances where they pretended everything was fine, Andre still had that photo of Steffi on his refrigerator. His wife would walk past it every day, not knowing that her husband's heart had never really been in their marriage to begin with. He was legally committed to one woman while emotionally attached to another he'd barely spoken to. By 1999, the marriage was done. The divorce proceedings started, and Andre's carefully constructed public image began to crack. He'd hit rock bottom in his career too. His ranking had plummeted, and people were writing him off as finished. Everything he'd built was collapsing at once. But while his world was burning down, somewhere in the back of his mind, he still thought about that German tennis player he'd obsessed over for nearly a decade. And then, completely by chance, their coaches decided to set up a practice session. Key Biscayne, 1999. Andre's coach and Steffi's coach thought it would be beneficial for them to practice together, just a professional training session between two champions. Simple enough. But when Steffi showed up to the court, she was immediately confused. She knew Andre was married to Brooke Shields. Everyone knew. So why was he looking at her like that? Why did this practice session feel like something else entirely? Andre couldn't hide his feelings anymore. After years of watching from a distance, after that failed Wimbledon encounter, after everything that had happened in his personal life, here she was, right in front of him. The chemistry was undeniable, at least from his side. But Steffi was in a committed relationship with Michael Bartels, 7 years together at this point. She wasn't looking for complications, and this married American tennis player was definitely a complication. The practice ended, and Andre made his move. He sent roses to her hotel room along with a handwritten letter. Romantic, bold, and completely inappropriate given their circumstances. Steffi's response was immediate and harsh. She told him to stay away. Her boyfriend was literally there with her, and here was this married man sending her flowers and confessing feelings she hadn't asked for. It was messy, uncomfortable, and could have ended their story right there. But timing is everything. Andre's divorce from Brooke was already in motion, the paperwork being finalized. He wasn't technically available yet, but he was close. And despite her warning, despite telling him to back off, something about that letter stuck with Steffi. Maybe it was the intensity of his feelings, the fact that he'd been carrying this torch for so long, or maybe she'd felt something during that practice session too, something she wasn't ready to admit. Within months, everything shifted. Andre's divorce became official, and suddenly he was free. Steffi was still with Michael, still in that 7-year relationship that everyone assumed would lead to marriage, but doubt had crept in. Once Andre was actually available, the dynamic changed completely. They started talking more, seeing each other under the guise of professional interactions. And Michael Bartels, the man who'd been with Steffi through her peak years, had no idea his relationship was about to implode. The fallout was about to get brutal. Michael Bartels thought everything was fine. 7 years with one of the most famous athletes in the world. A relationship that had survived the pressures of fame and constant travel. They'd built a life together, and marriage seemed like the natural next step. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, Steffi ended it. No warning, no gradual decline that he could see. Just over. The timing was suspicious. It was 1999, right around the period when Andre had become newly single and suddenly very present in Steffi's life. Michael later opened up about how devastating the breakup was, claiming he'd been completely blindsided. From his perspective, they were solid one day, and the next, she was walking away. He didn't understand what had changed, or maybe he didn't want to see what was right in front of him. The tennis world started connecting the dots pretty quickly. Steffi ends a 7-year relationship, and within weeks, she's spending more time with Andre Agassi. The whispers started immediately. Some people sympathized with Michael, seeing him as the casualty of a romance that had been building in secret. Others pointed out that feelings can't be controlled, and Steffi had made a choice rather than stringing him along. But here's what made it worse. Michael had been there through everything. He'd supported Steffi through her father's legal troubles in the late 90s, a scandal that rocked her family and dominated German headlines. He'd been her stability during one of the most difficult periods of her life. And now, just as things were settling down, she was leaving him for someone else. The betrayal cut deep, and he didn't hide his hurt when speaking to the media. Steffi stayed quiet through most of the criticism. She didn't owe anyone an explanation, but the public wanted one anyway. How do you leave a 7-year relationship for someone you barely know? Except she did know Andre in a way. They'd been orbiting each other for years, both champions who understood the pressures of their world in ways no one else could. The connection was instant once they actually gave it a chance. Andre, fresh off his own divorce and personal struggles, suddenly had exactly what he'd wanted for nearly a decade, and he wasn't wasting any time. Their relationship moved fast, maybe too fast for people on the outside looking in. But when you've spent years wanting something, you don't hesitate once it's finally within reach. The controversy didn't matter. Michael's heartbreak didn't slow them down. They were all in, And what happened next proved just how serious they were. Once they were officially together, Andre and Steffi didn't waste a single moment. The relationship that had taken nearly a decade to start was now moving at lightning speed. They kept everything incredibly private, avoiding the media circus that had surrounded Andre's first marriage. No magazine deals, no red carpet appearances as a couple. They were determined to build something real away from the cameras. October 22nd, 2001, Las Vegas. They got married in a ceremony so private that even most of their friends didn't know it was happening. No celebrity guest list, no elaborate reception, no press release. Just Andre, Steffi, and their mothers. That's it. Two of the biggest names in tennis history, with a combined 30 Grand Slam titles between them. And they chose the most low-key wedding imaginable. It was the complete opposite of Andre's first marriage, and that was intentional. But here's the detail that raised eyebrows. Their son Jaden was born just days after the wedding. Days. Which meant Steffi had been visibly pregnant when they exchanged vows. For two people who'd kept their relationship so private, this timeline told everyone exactly how fast things had moved. They'd gone from Steffi ending her 7-year relationship to being married with a baby in roughly 2 years. Some people saw it as romantic, proof that when you know, you know. Others saw it as reckless, too much too soon. The math wasn't hard to figure out. They'd gotten serious sometime in late 1999 or early 2000, right after both their previous relationships ended. By 2001, they were already starting a family. Critics pointed to the speed as evidence that the relationship was built on infatuation rather than foundation. How could it possibly last when it had caused so much collateral damage and moved so quickly? Andre didn't care what anyone thought. He'd waited almost 10 years for this woman, and now she was his wife and the mother of his child. In his mind, they hadn't rushed anything. They'd just finally stopped wasting time. Steffi seemed to feel the same way. She'd walked away from a long-term relationship because something about Andre felt different, felt right, in a way she couldn't ignore. 2 years later, they had their daughter Jazz, completing their family. Both had retired from professional tennis by then, ready to focus on raising their kids away from the spotlight that had defined their entire adult lives. They'd built their fairy tale, but the question remained, could a relationship that started with so much controversy actually survive long-term? Everyone was watching, waiting for the cracks to show. They never came. 24 years later, Andre and Steffi are still together, not just together, genuinely happy in a way that's rare for celebrity couples, especially ones that started under such messy circumstances. They've outlasted almost every high-profile relationship from that era, proving that maybe all that controversy was worth it after all. Their kids are grown now. Jaden chose baseball over tennis, playing professionally before transitioning to other pursuits. Jazz went in a completely different direction, pursuing fashion and staying mostly out of the public eye. Andre and Steffi never pushed them toward tennis, never tried to recreate their own legacies through their children. They wanted their kids to find their own paths, free from the pressure that had defined both their careers. These days, you'll find them playing pickleball together, a detail Andre loves sharing on social media. He posts photos of Steffi with captions that read like a man still completely smitten with his wife after more than 2 decades. The obsession from the early 90s never really faded. It just evolved into something deeper, more stable. He still lights up when he talks about her in interviews, still looks at her the way he did during that 1999 practice session. They've also built something meaningful beyond their marriage. The Andre Agassi Foundation has raised millions for education, while Steffi runs Children for Tomorrow, supporting kids affected by war and trauma. They use their combined fame and resources to actually make a difference, working together on charitable projects that matter to both of them. It's the kind of partnership that goes beyond romance. They're genuine teammates in every sense. The contrast to Andre's first marriage couldn't be more stark. Where Brooke and Andre were constantly in the spotlight, fighting behind closed doors, Andre and Steffi have maintained privacy while building something solid. Where his first marriage was defined by jealousy and instability, this one is built on mutual respect and shared understanding. They both know what it's like to be at the top, to handle pressure, to sacrifice everything for excellence. That common ground created a foundation his first marriage never had. Michael Bartels moved on eventually, though reports suggest it took him years to fully process the breakup. Brooke Shields found happiness in her second marriage and has spoken about her time with Andre with surprising grace, acknowledging that they simply weren't right for each other. The people who got hurt along the way have healed, built new lives, found their own happiness, and somehow, against all odds, the relationship that started with chaos became the most stable thing in both their lives.